So there's a top 20% and there's a bottom 20%. So the number one quintile is the top, and number five is the bottom, and the second, third, and fourth in between. Now, notice, looking first at the top of that list, small cap value, we know it's the most risky, so it will not shock us to find out that it was up 36 of the years, or 37% of the time, and in the top quintile, but it was also in the fifth quintile a little more than a quarter of the time. And 37% of the time it was somewhere in the middle, but really in the middle only three times, or 3%. On the other hand, if you go to the bottom of this table, the S&P 500, remember, high quality, which should mean lower returns. Well, if we go to the fifth percentile, the worst 20%, you'll see it's there 40% of the time. But it is still in the upper first quintile 29% of the time. And it's right in the middle 7%. So both small cap and S&P 500. Well, and by the way, large cap value too. Notice large cap value is in the middle a lot, 60, not in the exact middle, only 6%, but it is 16% of the time in number one quintile and 18% of the time in the fifth quintile. So it's not as wild and crazy as the S&P 500 or the small cap value, but it is more volatile. It is a value portfolio that, as we saw in the table of the returns of equities, has a very high range of volatility. But then if I look at the four fund strategy, what is it that I like a lot? I like a lot that it's never number one and it's never number five. Now, really, I guess I would say I would like it to be number one sometimes, only because I'd like to think that sometimes I'm performing in the top 20%. But the answer with diversification sometimes is you can't get what you want, because the whole idea of diversification is to hold some of the stuff that's not doing well. But 100% of the time, you're in the second through fourth quintile, and 77% of the time you're right in the middle. So what does that tell us? It tells us, if we look at the volatility of returns 1 year at a time, that the four fund strategy is way better than the S&P 500. It is less volatile. The annual returns, how much from 1 year to the next are you going to be up or down, is not as much as others who are only representing themselves as a standalone investment. But here's the part that is the icing on the cake. The compound annualized growth rate of the four fund strategy that has lower risk than the S&P 500 was 11.9 versus the S&P 500 at 10.2. And that is remarkable, because for every extra 0.5%, and this is really impactful for young people, every extra 0.5% means an extra $1 to $2 million, more than likely, in your retirement, if you're saving even what we would consider to be a minimal amount. Now, I wanted to just spend a minute on one more of these quilt charts. Well, I think maybe there's two more, but this one I wanted to show you because it breaks the period from 1928 to 2024 into 10-year periods. There is nothing magic about 10 years. But it seems like it's a period of time that people seem to think that if something happens for 10 years, it's meaningful. Well, please notice that in all but three of the 10-year period starting in 1928, the small cap value has outperformed everything else. Two of the decades, 10-year periods, the S&P 500 won. Now, in those 2 years that the S&P 500 did better than small cap value, 1948 to 1957, small cap value was 12.9% compound rate of return, S&P 500 16.4. And by the way, it is interesting to note that the following year, 10 years, from 58 to 67, the S&P 500 made 12.9%, which is exactly what the small cap value had made the year before. But the small cap value in this new decade up 22.1. And I hope when you have time, you will take a look at these periods. There are some great lessons. For example, 1928 to 1937, a long-term government bond was the best place to be. Small cap value was the worst. S&P 500 actually broke even. And the reason it broke even is because 1928 was a really good year, really good year. So this is just to show you that over the decades, that small cap value in most cases has been at the top. And this last period, 2018 to 2024, it's not over yet. So I don't know who's going to win because a lot can happen in the next few years. The next quilt chart, bear with me because what I want to do now is take you to the final analysis of the quilt chart. In this quilt chart, Daryl included small cap value and the S&P 500. But he looked at three combinations. A combination 50-50, large and small value. A combination half in small cap value, half in the S&P 500. And then the 25% pieces of small cap value, small cap blend, large cap value, and large cap blend. And he looks at the compound rate of return, and it's no different than we saw before with the small cap value and the S&P and the 4 fund. But let me just add the all value was 12.3% compound rate of return over the 97 years. And the 2 fund strategy was a 12%. So a little bit better than the 11.9 of the 4 fund strategy. What is interesting is that the one fund that is never first or last in this particular study is the 2 fund strategy of small cap value and the S&P 500. And but the main thing, I think the main point to make is doesn't matter which, the 4 fund, the 2 fund, or the all value 2 fund, they are very well diversified because in each case, you're getting more than just one asset class. You're getting large, you're getting small, you're getting value. Or you're getting value and growth and small and large. Or you're getting all 4 of them. I mean, there's a ton of diversification in any of these portfolios. Now what you see on your screen is boot camp number 2. And no, I'm not going to give you the boot camp right now. This is the next in this 10-part series, this one entitled The Ultimate Buy and Hold Portfolio. And what you are going to learn in that piece is the impact of little tiny changes to your portfolio. A little bit of small value, a little bit of large value, a little bit of international, a little bit of everything. And what it does to your diversification, what it does to your risk, and what it does to your potential return. And I do hope that you will go there next if you are just getting started with this process. I also, for people who are brand new to our boot camp, we have a whole website that is filled with articles and podcasts and videos, all devoted to educating you to become a better investor. And I have to at least comment about the disclaimer that is on the screen right now. And that is that this is not my attempt to be your advisor. In fact, I welcome questions, but I can't answer questions that imply that I'm your advisor. What I can be is a really good teacher. And I'd like to think that I am. I know Chris Pedersen loves to teach, and but we have to say that if you need help putting this together, then you should contact a professional for advice. Our hope is by the time you're done with this series, that if you do have to talk to a professional, it would really be to really, I think, just take a look at what you decided and pay somebody by the hour to see if there's anything that you have overlooked. And of course, we also have we had social media outreach program to try to stay in touch with you and to keep you up to date with the stuff that you're doing. But if you want to write to me, paul@paulmerriman.com. Tell me if this was helpful. Ask me a question. I can't promise to answer every question personally, but we will try to work them into the work that we do in responding to all of you. So thanks for watching. Share it with a friend if you know somebody who's just getting started with their investment process, and hopefully they'll continue on with this boot camp series. Thank you very much.